Ladies and gentlemen, we're back once again. It is week 4 of the Tailgate Committee. I am your leader here, Andy Hopper, joined as always by Tom Scavetta and Noah Deibler. We are, dare I say, balls deep in the middle of college football action. The season is upon us. I want to take this moment to tell everybody to cherish this time we have. There's a finite amount of football left, ladies and gentlemen, so enjoy it while you can. Also, please like this video, subscribe on YouTube at the Tailgate Committee. Check us out on social media at the Tailgate Committee on Facebook and Instagram, at the Tailgate.com on Twitter. So let's jump right in. We'll go to our week 3 recap. Few good games in week 3. I picked out, I think, 6 that I think we should talk about. Let's start with the old boy, UGA in Tennessee. At times, looked like the Vols had control of this game, and Georgia just never went away. Noah, I'd be remiss if I didn't start with you on this one. Overtime victory for the Bulldogs on the road. What'd you think about this one?
Yeah, man, this one was not looking good at times. We got off to a really bad start. Aguilar was slinging it all over the field in the first half. Some defensive lapses and coverage as well. We got down 21-7 pretty quickly in the first quarter. And then we kind of fought back, and it was basically, what, funny enough, guys, it kind of reminded me a lot of that Alabama game from last year where, they posed a team that got off to a slow start. And then we had to crawl it back. And then once we did, it was kind of a back and forth game from there. Main takeaways for me, first of all, I want to call some people out. I want to call out this idiot, Josh Pate, who said that Gunnar Stockton was the 13th best quarterback in the SEC heading in this season. And I also want to call out this idiot, Paul Feinbaum. Yes, Feinbaum, not Feinbaum, Feinbaum, for all his hateful statements he's thrown at my quarterback. Gunnar Stockton was amazing in this game, guys. 304 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Had that big, I think it was fourth and 6, I want to say, a touchdown pass to tie the game and the 2-point conversion. I mean, that was a clinical drive by the entire offense, but I thought he was particularly good as well. We didn't have an amazing game running the ball, but we stuck to it. 55 rushing attempts. Nate Frazier, our leading rusher. And your guy, Andy McRae, two rushing touchdowns in this game, including the game winner in overtime. Didn't have a ton of yards, only 17 yards, but got the big scores when it counted. And defensive recovery, Aguilar started this game 14 for 14, guys. But the rest of the way, he was 10 for 22 with 2 interceptions. So, I mean, overall, I still think he had a really good game. But some mistakes towards the end that definitely cost his team. This Brazel dude as well absolutely went off. I mean, this guy's an animal. He did great, but we had some good plays in the passing game as well. That TD to Zachariah Branch, and then I believe the fourth down one was to London Humphreys, who we got last year, a transfer from Vandy. He had a good game as well. But yeah, I mean, winning the turnover battle, I think that was, or winning the turnover battle in the second half, excuse me, I think that was a big component as well. And I also think, I'm going to be honest, when they got that field goal, I thought the game was over. I literally said in one of my group chats, I was like, yeah, that's game, unless the kicker has an all-time choke. And what do you know? Absolutely shanks the kick, man. And then from there, I think Tennessee just kind of lost all momentum. Their offense totally stagnated in overtime. And then we just, drove down pretty methodical, got the touchdown, win the game. So it was a close game, which I expected it to. But I got to say, guys, thank God we win this game because I live 5 minutes from Tennessee. Where I live is about half Georgia, half Tennessee fans. If we had lost this game, never would have heard the end of it. But no, instead, Tennessee choked. They have now lost 9 in a row against us. And it's a quality win, man. It was a good effort. Now we got the bye week to kind of savor it a little bit. But exciting game. Not very fun watch as a fan of the team. Actually very stressful. But as a neutral, definitely one of the games of the year so far. This week was kind of crazy as well. We had 2 game of the year contenders on the same day, back to back, pretty much, man. What a week! But yeah, super happy. Tennessee played super well, but they lost, so who cares?
But they lost, so who cares? They have to be just kicking themselves. 9 losses in a row to the Bulldogs. They jump out to a 21-7 lead at the end of the first quarter. Felt like they were in control. And then, those turnovers, man, they'll come to bite you. I was tailgating during this game, so I was watching it on my phone a little bit. And then when we got into the stadium, they show the scores on the scoreboard, so I was trying to keep up with that as best as possible. The service in the stadium isn't always the best, but I was happy to see McCray get a couple touches and get in the end zone. So Georgia takes the win. Tom, I don't know if we could really put it any better than Noah did, so I think I want to just move on and let you cook real quick, because I'm sure you have some thoughts. Noah mentioned it. Another game of the year candidate, Texas A&M marches into South Bend, and they leave with a victory. Tom, I know you have some thoughts on this one. Just let us hear it, man.
Yeah, so first and foremost, I'm glad to hear that Texas A&M safety Bryce Anderson is okay. He avoided catastrophic injury, traveled home with the team Saturday night after being carted off with an apparent head injury. It did not look good. He had to go to the hospital. The fact that he got on that flight with the team Saturday night is awesome to hear. Yeah, look, it was a tough loss. 0-2 is not the Notre Dame DNA. It's not something you are fond of. It's not a place that you want to be. It's not a place that any football team wants to be, regardless of what your brand is, what your name is as a school. Fourth and goal with under 10 seconds to go. Look, there were several calls that were bad in this game, but it's no excuse. Notre Dame made several mistakes throughout the course of the game that led to this moment. Tyler Buchner botching the PAT. Tyler Buchner has been with Notre Dame since 2021. He left for a year to go to Alabama with Tommy Rees and then came back when Rees left. It's tough, man. I want him to leave this team for good. You can't fault him too much because it was an honest mistake, and he is pretty sure-handed 99% of the time. Just that one mistake was awful. The Christian Gray holding on that last drive was atrocious. For him, again, he's getting beat. We even saw this in the CFP last year, guys. He was known for a bad reason, right? He had to replace Ben Morrison, who was out with the season-ending injury. He's now on the Tampa Bay Bucks. I'm happy for him, but Christian Gray was burnt. He was honestly burnt. And yeah, Notre Dame fans, I hear you. Donovan Heinisch obviously got held on that last play that led to that touchdown throw. But you can look back at several moments in this game where Notre Dame could have created some more distance despite leading majority of the game that wouldn't have led to that call on Donovan Heinisch, leading to a loss like that, or that no call, I should say. Yes, the defense held Marcel Reed to an under 50% completion rate, but Chris Ash is obviously a problem. They don't have the personnel that they did last year. They need good coaching. Le'Veon Moss had 3 rushing touchdowns. You can't allow that to happen. Mario Craver had 207 receiving yards on only 7 catches. That's a problem. You should not have allowed that to happen. If you prevent those two things happening, the Donovan Heinisch call, the Tyler Buchner botch, those don't matter, right? You're sitting here looking Notre Dame easily wins this game, but they did not. I thought quarterback C.J. Carr had a decent game. Not a great game, but a decent game. Again, only his second career start. Remember, Notre Dame is a week behind because of the early bye, which is ridiculous in my opinion. Jeremiah Love, much more involved in this game, 23 carries, but for just 94 yards. He did have a touchdown. Jadarian Price, guys, this guy's a stud. He's cooking back there. 12 rushes, 68 yards, and 2 scores. He's going to be more involved in weeks ahead. And I was happy to see Malachi Fields get more involved, the Virginia Tech transfer. Look, it's not looking pretty right now. Notre Dame, I read somewhere, has like a 5% chance to make the CFP. Sitting here ranked at number 24 now. First 0-2 team to be in the rankings since 1988. Ironically, that was the year Notre Dame won their last national championship. But look, I still believe in this team, and it's awful what happened on Saturday. You never like to see guys get hurt. There were bigger moments than this Notre Dame loss, right? The Fighting Irish community, they gathered in prayer for Bryce Anderson. It was not a good injury, and I love Marcus Freeman, man. making sure this team prays for their opponent. Sometimes things in life matter more than football games, teaching his players to love one another. And that's what Notre Dame is all about, honestly, guys. God, country, Notre Dame. Being 0-2 is rough, but this is part of the reason why I'm a fan. You guys sit here, and I had a question at work ask me, "Oh, you're from New York. Why are you a Notre Dame fan?" Well, me as a Catholic trying to go to church every week, it teaches us to love one another. And I love what Notre Dame stands for, honestly. And it's important now more than ever to spread that message of love. And I think Marcus Freeman preaches that, right? We talked about him reinstilling Catholic Mass when he became head coach of Notre Dame, going straight from the Basilica, walking straight to Notre Dame Stadium after that Mass. And being united as one team under God is the real reason why I love this Notre Dame team. How special is that, guys? If you're a Notre Dame fan watching this right now and you're down about being 0-2, look, it could be a different scenario. You could be a Clemson fan struggling to think about where you're heading the rest of the season. Or you could be an Illinois fan, super excited to be in the top 10, going on a major season-defining game this week. Just know, folks, the reason why I love Notre Dame is that God loves you, and I encourage you to continue having faith in your team and in everyday life. And on this current day, September 17th at 7:45 p.m., I predict that the Notre Dame Fighting Irish will still make the college football playoff.
A lot of confidence from Tommy Boy. They're going to have to win out. A 10-2 finish could get them there. As far as this game goes, Texas A&M outgained the Irish 488-440. Each of them had a turnover, 24 first downs to 23 for the Irish. 13 penalties for 86 yards for the Aggies, only 5 penalties for 31 yards for Notre Dame. So pretty clean there. Notre Dame won the time of possession. They were 2 of 4 on fourth down, 7 of 15 on third down. It just came down to that last play. Sometimes you just got to tip your cap. Hell of a throw there by Reed and hell of a catch by the tight end. Noah, I think Tom covered that one for us. So we are going to move on, go back to the SEC, LSU, Florida. I want to get your thoughts on this one because anytime Florida comes up and you have the opportunity to point and laugh, you are going to take full advantage of it. So LSU 20, Florida 10. Brian Kelly fired up in the presser. Tom, you sent that over. He has since apologized to that reporter. I will say in his apology press conference, a reporter really had the missed opportunity of going, so what's up with the offense? Like, for real, though? Like, that, if they would have hit him with that again, would have been hilarious. But DJ Lagway, 287 yards, 5 interceptions through the air. You're never going to win the game if you turn the ball over 5 times. Noah, what do you think about this one? Surely you're not surprised LSU won the game. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm not surprised they won. Actually, it was closer than I thought it would be. I thought they'd win, going away, but this game was, I mean, I'd never say it was in doubt necessarily. I think LSU always looked like they had a step, but I mean, it was 13-10 at halftime, so like anything could happen from there. But a couple things. First of all, the obvious thing, Billy Napier. Like, I do not understand this philosophy some teams have, and Tom, I know you've mentioned this, where they value the recruiting side more than the on-field coaching side, because it doesn't matter if your team is loaded with 4 and 5-star prospects if they go out and lay an egg every time you're on the field. I mean, it was the exact opposite with Dan Mullen. We heard, oh, he's a brilliant X's and O's guys, but he hates recruiting. But what he was good at was winning football games. Now he had the one down here, but I said this last week. He had 2 seasons where they finished the top 10, and then his third one, they finished the SEC championship game. Here's an interesting stat for you guys. Billy Napier, to match Dan Mullen's winning percentage at Florida, has to win 28 straight games in a row without losing. I mean, is that just like the most embarrassing stat that you have ever heard? And I think again it was a case of Mullen was a guy with an abrasive personality. I don't think the higher ups liked him, whereas Billy Napier isn't really that good of a coach, at least at the Power 5 level, but he's like the nicest guy ever. So, people want to root for him or whatever. He's not good enough. He's not good enough for this level of job, in my opinion. In fact, I think when you look at the rest of the schedule, it's inevitable he's going to get fired. I don't root for anyone to get fired. I just simply think it's going to happen. Another thing, I mean, you mentioned Andy, 5 picks for DJ Lag. I don't know what was going on in this game. I mean, this is another guy, kind of like what Nico Iamaleava was projected as a few years ago. Guy, 5-star recruit, big time guy. But again, it's the same thing. Doesn't matter if you're 5-star recruit and you go out and play like this. I mean, the Florida offense has just been horrific through 3 weeks. And, you mentioned the LSU side, but their offense hasn't been amazing either. But their defense has been remarkable, much improved from last year, in my opinion, where they had a few games where they kind of choked games with being unable to get stops. Not the case this year. They won the LSU or the Clemson game in the second half because their defense shut Florida out in the second half in a game like this. And, it's fair to question Brian Kelly about the offense, but at the end of the day, they're still 3-0. They have time to figure that stuff out. And that press conference was funny, guys, because I do think he overreacted to the question. I don't think it was an unfair question. But at the same time, and Tom, I know you said this, he would not have had that reaction to a question, 2-3 years ago if he was still coaching at Notre Dame or whatever. It felt like we're a different Brian Kelly. Now, you can argue he overreacted. It was a bit childish, but it was still surprising for me to see. So, I mean, but yeah, enough about LSU. Florida's a total joke, man. I mean, this team is just absolute garbage. Like, it's just like a comedy troupe, man. They're just terrible, and it's only going to get worse, by the way. If they thought the USF Bulls were a tough matchup at home, oh my God, just look at the rest of the schedule. You remember when FSU went 2-10 last year? They're going to try to match that. They might even break it. They might go 1-11. This team is absolutely abysmal.
I wouldn't be shocked at this point. It's kind of, at what point does Billy Napier lose the locker room here and these guys just don't care anymore? Tom, let's get your thoughts on LSU Florida.
Yeah, quickly, we're going to have to save that clip Noah just made. If that does happen, that'll be hysterical. But, yeah, look, Lagway needs to transfer. He's not a fit at Florida. Billy Napier doesn't know how to coach him, quite frankly. All due respect to him, but coaching in the SEC is a different animal. Not everyone is cut out for it, and that's okay. I think Billy Napier still brings value to the coaching field, just not as the head coach of University of Florida. And I say that with the most respect as possible. As far as the reporter thing goes, yeah, look, obviously it's his right to go off on the reporter, but he let it linger throughout the whole press conference, guys. Then he's like, yeah, that's a great question. Oh, like that was his aura, that whole press conference. It was bad aura. I would not have responded that way. Do I think that was the best question to ask Brian Kelly, especially with me knowing him for the past 20 years? No. But look, LSU should have played a little bit better. It shouldn't have taken them that long to distance themselves from Florida by multiple possessions. And Nussmeier needs to play a little bit better as well. I thought their defense did a great job. I know the 1 Weeks brother got hurt, so hopefully he's okay. I know there's 3 Weeks brothers on LSU, by the way. I don't even know about the third. Like where do these guys come from? And who are they the offspring of? That's what I really want to know. Is there a 4th Weeks somewhere? Yeah. Maybe a 5th?
Gotta be.
But all in all, LSU is fine. Don't overreact. It's an SEC game, right? View this as like an NFL divisional game. Scores might be closer than out of division games, right? Same thing with this college conference here. Florida's still trash. They might go 2-10, 3-9. I'll give them a little bit more benefit of the doubt than 1-11. But yeah, they're going to be 1-5 guys heading into week 6, 7, whatever it is. It's not going to be pretty. And Napier might not make it if they do go 1-5.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. How could he? There's no way he's surviving. I don't know if he survives a 1-5 stretch. Maybe you give him a little bit of leeway because of how tough that stretch is as far as the strength and quality of the opponents. But if they're sitting at a 1-11, 2-10, 3-9, he is as good as gone. Yeah, so we'll move on to the next one here. Clemson, Georgia Tech, the Jackets and Haynes King get the upset over the Tigers. Down goes Dabo. Cade Klubnik's record against the Power 4, Power 5, whatever. Noah, you sent this over. Now 15-11. Not, I mean, I guess it makes total sense, but I would not have guessed that at all. Tom, let me get your thoughts on this game and this Jackets victory.
Yeah, Haynes King, I believe, was questionable coming into this game. He wound up playing, which was great because when he does play, Georgia Tech is a completely different team. And it showed on the football field. 20 of 28 for 211 yards, 25 rushes for 103 yards and a score, which is awesome. He is such a threat on his feet, guys. He's one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the country. Clemson just unable to stop him. And Klubnik, guys, has been a huge disappointment. Is it all his fault? No. I mean, the offensive line has been atrocious, right? Blake Fisher's, I mean, not Blake Fisher. Oh, God, he played for Notre Dame. Blake Miller needs to do better on the right side of that offensive line, closing off the edge. I mean, Klubnik was running for his life back there. If you look at the stats, guys, he had 17 rushes for 62 yards. Klubnik should not be running the ball 17 times. Yeah. It's a bigger problem than him individually. And not having Antonio Williams is also a problem, right? I mean, it's pretty much Bryant Wesco vision or bust. That's what this Clemson offense is right now. Randall is, doing what he can, but you can't rely on him to win you football games. Honestly, Clemson should be 0-3, guys. I mean, they were down multiple possessions to Troy. I mean, it's a scary time to be a Clemson Tigers fan, and credit to Georgia Tech being ranked. That's all I've really got to say about this game. Haynes King and Jamal Haynes in that backfield are two studs. Clemson couldn't stop them, and it's a shame because you have a top 5-10 potential pick in Peter Woods. They're getting mauled on the ground. They can't stop them. If you can't stop them, what makes you think you're going to stop ACC caliber opponents like Miami, like a Louisville? They're not. They're going to miss the CFP.
Whoa. The other team in Georgia, one you're not too fond of, Noah, but I want to get your thoughts on this game. What'd you think about Tech, how they looked, and I guess how Clemson looked?
Well, first of all, for Tech, like you said, I can't stand them, but they earned this. They earned this win, man. They played well. I mean, I think get Haynes King, back going again is important for their team because they were really competitive last year when he was doing their thing. And, like Tom said, he's not one of those guys that's always going to, slice and dice through the air. But the thing he does bring is the ground presence. I mean, 25 carries for a quarterback is just insane. And over 100 yards, like Tom said, I mean, that's a big element to their offense that I think they were really missing. The first couple of weeks when they had a backup plan, I do believe. But now that he's back, he's only going to get healthier, which I think will help their offense. Defensively, I think they played pretty decent, not amazing, but I mean, Clemson is one of those teams talent-wise. I understand they have other issues, but talent-wise, if you can hold them to 21 points, you'd be pretty happy with that at the end of the day. And also the kick at the end of the game. I mean, what a kick! Wasn't it like 54 yards or something like that?
54-yard fire drill. They didn't have any timeouts left. I was watching that like they're really not going to try to get any closer or do anything. And credit the whole special teams unit for that, for being able to pull that off in that moment. Sorry to cut you off, but I was very impressed with that final kick.
Yeah, it was definitely impressive. But on the other side for Clemson, man, I mean, like Tom said, they could really be 0-3. I mean, they were getting boat raced by Troy at the half, last week, and luckily, just because they have so much better players, they were able to come back and win by 11, I believe it was. And they have not looked good against quality competition. Their offense, I mean, you guys want to talk about LSU offense struggling? What is this Clemson offense up to? I mean, Klubnik, like we said earlier, a couple of weeks ago, was one of probably the biggest favorites for the Heisman Trophy. In this game, 207 passing yards, less than 60% completion, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. I do think the Antonio Williams injury is massive, and I don't think as many people mentioned it in week 1 because they're still competitive. They're still playing an amazing team. So didn't really get noticed as much back then, I think. You're noticing it now because, like Tom said, outside of Bryant Wesco, who had 7 catches, 126 and a touchdown, they had no other second option. Pretty much, it was basically him or bust. And in the rushing game, it's Adam Randall or it's basically no one else. Because like we said, like Tom said, Klubnik rushing 70 times is not part of the formula. Also, I'm not a Clemson fan, so they would know better than me. But I have looked at what Clemson fans are saying. A lot of anger with Garrett Riley, guys, and his play calling so far. Now, I don't know if I don't want to specifically blame one person in particular because I think they have a lot of issues. Like Tom said, their offensive line is terrible, which just does not help whatsoever because basically every football game is won in the trenches. Uh, but it is interesting how this team, even with their injuries, I think should have look better offensively than they are with the talent that they should have. And one final thing I want to mention, guys. He's an amazing coach, but I am getting sick and tired of Dabo Swinney having his head up his ass, going into press conferences saying stuff like, "Who are you to question me? Have you looked at my last 10 seasons where we've made the playoffs 8 out of 10 times or whatever it was?" And I'm like, Listen, man, you're 1-2. You are unranked, and you deserve to be unranked. You cannot go out there puffing your chest like it's 2018. You took way too long to adapt the transfer portal, which set you back multiple years in contention. You finally started getting into it this year, and you still stink. And you play in a conference that, let's be having it. No disrespect to ACC fans. You are not the SEC. You are not the Big Ten. This is one of the easier Power 5 conferences to win. And yet you still stink. You went into Georgia Tech, and Georgia Tech, let's be honest, the score was close, but Georgia Tech always looked to be fairly in control of the game. You always felt
Right.
Georgia Tech had a step on them, and that it was kind of surprising Clemson even tied the game. And he lost. And you know what? I'm looking at the conference. I'd expect Miami to beat them. Florida State, I think, is better than them. I mean, if they can't win the conference, they have no shot at making the CFP. Yeah, that's basically the only chance they have of making the CFP. This team is not getting in on their own merits as one of the wild card teams or whatever. But Dabo Swinney, you got to lock in, man. This is not good enough, and you got to stop acting like it's freaking 2018 where you got Deshaun Watson and you're going 12-0 easily because there's no competition. ACC isn't like that anymore, man. It's not looking good for you right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. I love when the coaches pull that. I mean, who are you to ask me? That is how you know your team's in trouble. If the coach has no argument rather than, do you know who I am? Well, what's my track record? Well, I don't care what your track record is. I'm asking about the 1-2 start to this season. It is not looking good for Clemson right now. Let's move on. Just a couple games left that I wanted to hit on. USF and Miami. USF been the talk of college football for the first couple weeks, and they just got humbled, ladies and gentlemen. They go into Hard Rock Stadium, and they walk out with a 49-12 drubbing at the hands of the Miami Hurricanes. They just proved they're a better team. Is it time to start, really keeping an eye on Miami here? Tom, let me get your thoughts on this game. Do you think Miami's a legit contender now?
Yeah, I mean, Carson Beck might be the best quarterback in all of college football right now with the way he's playing with Miami. Yeah, you could say, well, he threw 2 picks last week. We know who Carson Beck is. He's playing really, really well out on the field. You got to look past the stats. I mean, this guy has really managed this team, and he's made plays when it's mattered, right? USF is a team that they knocked out Boise State. Their offense couldn't do anything. And then they did the same thing to Florida last week. So there was a lot of pressure on Miami. I mean, look, I feel like we all kind of picked USF last week due to satirical reasons, just trying to be on the right end of that. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but all in all, they're a force to be reckoned with. They should win the ACC right now. I mean, Mark Fletcher on the ground is a beast. 120 yards on just 16 carries and 2 scores. USF never really had a chance. Byron Brown, if he doesn't play well, USF loses. If he plays well, USF wins. He is a good quarterback for them. But Miami's defense really exploited some weaknesses. We saw, Bryce Fitzgerald had a good game on the back line for the Canes. Ruben Bain applied some good pressure on Brown that made him uncomfortable. He's a slippery QB, and he was unable to do what he does best on a consistent basis. And, that's a huge credit. And USF's defense could not perform the way they did the previous 2 weeks because of Carson Beck's experience. I'm telling you, he is experienced. He knows what he's doing out there. And I'm so happy that he looks like the 2023 Carson Beck again, because he deserves it. He deserves it. And he's having a Cam Ward type of season from last year, if you think about it. I mean, that offensive system has been incredible to watch the last 2 years. And I am really, really excited for Carson Beck and the Miami Hurricanes this season.
Yeah, I mean, they completely dominated this game. They outgained USF 576 to 332, 27 first down, 7 of 11 on third down. Really hard to get them off the field. 36 minutes of possession to USF's 23 minutes and 59 seconds. Just domination. They jump out to the 14-0 lead. USF comes back and they hit a couple field goals, but they were playing a field goal game versus a touchdown game, and you're not going to win if you're kicking field goals, unfortunately. Noah, let me get your thoughts on this game. Your former quarterback balling 23 for 28, 3 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. Technically, I'll give him 25 for 28. He completed the 2 interceptions. They're just to the other team. So really good completion percentage there, fellas. But Noah, quickly, what'd you think about this game and Miami?
Well, the first note is I am never letting Tom, with his hype speeches, talk me out of a pick again. I wanted to pick Miami. I didn't do it. I fell into the hype, and we got reverse swept once again. So there it is. But I mean, my main takeaway for this, first of all, was we were really hyping up that USF defense through 2 weeks, and for good reason, because they looked amazing. But like Andy said, 576 yards of offense from this Miami team. I mean, just clinical. They were 7-11 on third down. So, clutch when they need to be as well. And they got a 4th down conversion as well. Balanced as well. 205 rushing yards. I believe 3 rushing touchdowns as well. And like Tom said, Carson Beck is playing very well. He's actually leading, fun fact for you guys, leading all of college football in completion percentage, like 79.4% or something like that. So he's being very clinical. And this is the thing with Carson Beck. Now, I've never said Carson Beck was garbage or anything like that. I know I saw some UGA fans say that last season. He really had a horrible 6-game stretch, guys, where he had the 12 interceptions. Other than that, he wasn't horrible, and he was really good in 2023. So, me personally, I think, the change of scenery has helped him. He's got a lot of talent on that offense. And he's looked good so far. Now, the question is he going to do this the rest of the season when, they play some, no disrespect to USF, right? But some bigger opponents. I mean, Notre Dame kind of looks a little bit in disarray, especially defensively. Let me take a quick look at the schedule. I mean, they got at Florida State week after next. I mean, they basically have a bye week this week. Let's be honest. They're going to win that game 49-7. But, Florida State, that's a tough one. Louisville might be a tough game. Syracuse and NC State. I mean, they don't have, all cupcakes, that's for sure. But, I mean, so far, it's been basically a 10 out of 10 start this season for sure. Carson Beck looks good. Offense looks good. Defense looks really good. I mean, this Ruben Bain guy is just an absolute beast out there. But, I mean, they've looked impressive through 3 weeks for sure. Maybe even the best, now that USF has fallen, maybe the best resume. Guys, what would you say about that?
Yeah, you could definitely make that argument for sure. Mario Cristobal's got him rolling down there. Let's move on to our last game from week 3, and then we'll go to our segment. So Vanderbilt marches into South Carolina and takes down the Gamecocks 31-7. Number 11 South Carolina goes down, falls to 2-1, loses their first SEC matchup. Well, Norris Sellers did exit this game in the first half with a concussion. I'm not sure if he is available for this week yet. He's going to have to go through the protocol. Pavia, Diego football, 18 for 25, 177 yards, 2 tutties and an interception. Good game for him. I don't know if you guys saw this. Apparently, Theo Vaughn said or bet him if Vandy beat South Carolina, he would get to take Diego Pavia's mom on a date. So I don't know how that's shaping up. Diego wants to go on a date with Tate McRae, which, I mean, who doesn't? So maybe if that all gets set up, then Theo is going to get lucky and he'll have a new Diego is going to have a new stepdad. But anyway, Luke Doty comes in for South Carolina. He goes 18 for 27, 148 through the air, and an interception. Faison had a nice day, 15 carries, 74 yards, and a score, but that was the only time they were able to find the end zone. Kind of the air got taken out of the room there when Sellers goes down. Noah, what do you think about the Doors? Are they a legit threat in the SEC?
Oh man, it's really tough to say because the SEC looks absolutely loaded this year, guys, with all the ranked teams. I mean, I'm looking at their standings right now. You got 9 3-0 teams in the SEC so far, and a lot of teams that have lost, just lost to other SEC teams. But I'm looking at the schedule. They have a really tough second half of the season, guys. At Alabama versus LSU versus Mizzou, at Texas versus Auburn. Okay, versus Kentucky, they could probably win that. But at Tennessee to close the season, brutal schedule. But man, I will say about this game, I wouldn't have said it was impossible Vanderbilt would win. I thought it would be a pretty close game. I did not expect them to go in there and absolutely boat race the Cox like they did, but this was just absolute domination, beating down the Cox with ease, you could say. And it's not too hard, guys, to look at the stats and figure out the main problem for South Carolina in this game, which is 4 turnovers to only 1 for Vanderbilt. You mentioned Sellers exiting the game. I do think that had an impact, but let's be honest, Sellers actually hasn't really had a good start to the season anyway. And then I think losing him affected their offense even more. Couldn't run the football. 3 yards per carry is just never going to get it done, especially in SEC play. Whereas on the other side, man, I mean, you mentioned Pavia. Not a game that would light up the stat sheet, but I mean, still 2 touchdowns. Um, he did his part, rushing the football as well. How about this? This is a perfect football name, guys. James L. Lassiter, 44-yard touchdown in this game. Cedric Alexander with a touchdown as well. But the story of this game was the defense. Absolutely, man. Their defense showed up to play on the road as well. I think is what's most impressive at Williams-Brice. Definitely not an easy place to play, I would say, especially for a growing Vanderbilt team. But to answer your question, Andy, while this is an impressive win, I would slow down on saying they're, SEC dark horse or anything like that because their schedule is still absolutely brutal. However, I do think they could make a decent bowl game, especially if, Pavia starts, picking it up towards, the second half of the season. But yeah, man, South Carolina, I was not expecting that. This game wasn't even close. They got absolutely destroyed.
Well, Tommy, did you have any thoughts on this one, the Cox and the Doors?
Well, before I did my full-on research, I was taking Vanderbilt outright. And I'm not trying to sound like I sounded last week, but then I saw the research and I was like, South Carolina dominates this series all the time. I'm like, all right, let me go with the chalk. Let me take South Carolina. Moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen, is trust with your first instinct. Do not doubt Diego Pavia. And, yeah, hopefully you learned a good lesson from that.
Definitely. So Vanderbilt takes out South Carolina. Those 2 teams starting their SEC seasons off differently. All right, let's go into our segments for the week. A little buy or sell. Number 1, Clemson and South Carolina both deserve to fall out of the top 25. Tom, are you buying or selling?
Yeah, I'm buying it for both. Clemson more so than South Carolina, just because of how bad they looked. I think it says less about Clemson than it says more about USC, South Carolina, obviously. Yeah, Clemson, they're 1-2. They lost to LSU, fine. But also to previously unranked Georgia Tech, and they narrowly beat Troy 27-16 after trailing 16-0. Bad, especially when you have a Heisman favorite, preseason Heisman favorite, I should say, on your roster. South Carolina, they lost 31-7, as we just aforementioned, to Vandy, previously unranked. and shout out to them being ranked now.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Sellers got hurt, like we are talking about. But what about the defense, guys? There's no running game. Uh, Less than 90 yards on the ground against one of the lesser run defending teams in the SEC. I know we're trying to hype up Vanderbilt a little bit and see if Pavia can get them, 9 or 10 wins this year. But if we're being real, they can't stop the run. They can't control the line of scrimmage. This says a lot less about South Carolina than it does more Vanderbilt, in my opinion. It's crazy because Shane Beamer was arguing last year for 9 wins South Carolina to make the college football playoff. Wrong. You shouldn't have been in, and you're definitely not getting in this year. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you that much. Both teams deserve to be unranked. South Carolina will not be ranked again this season.
Oh, all right. I like that take. We might need to clip that one. Noah, are you buying or selling that both of these teams deserve to fall out of the top 25?
Easily buying on Clemson because, like I said earlier, they're 1-2. They did not even look impressive in their win against Troy. They can really have no complaints about that one. With South Carolina, I'm more of like a tentative buy. In my opinion, I could have seen them staying in as like a 24 or 25, for instance, in the current coaches poll, guys. South Carolina is still number 24, whereas in the AP poll, they're unranked. I think that's about fair because they were horrible in this game. They are still 2-1, though. They did beat Virginia Tech the first week. However, Virginia Tech has been awful and fired their coach. So you can say that's not really an impressive win. And then their other game is against SC State. So I don't really think they can complain about being unranked either. I don't think they're anywhere near as disastrous as Clemson has looked. But like Tom said, man, they got a tough schedule the rest of the way again. I mean, they have at Missouri this week, and then they have another stretch later in the season where they play currently 5 ranked teams in a row: LSU, Oklahoma, Bama, Ole Miss, and A&M. And by the way, they still have that Clemson game at the end, which I know Clemson looks terrible right now, but Clemson historically owns that rivalry. So that's another tough game for them as well. But yeah, I'd say it's a buy for both of them. I think it's a little more debatable with South Carolina. I could have seen them staying in towards the very latter stages of the rankings. But Clemson's a joke. They don't even deserve to be close to being ranked.
I'm buying both of these. I think I agree. South Carolina definitely has more of an argument. I think Vanderbilt's a pretty good team. You could argue that, like, I think what you said is perfect, actually, Noah. They fall at like 24 or 25, but I'm not crazy upset that Little Beamer and the Cox fell out. You had a nice little segue for our number 2. Virginia Tech and UCLA have both fired their head coaches after 0-3 starts. A 30-day transfer portal window opens now for each school. Neither of these teams have played 4 games yet. Players can push to redshirt the 2025 season if they're eligible. Are you buying that this is a good idea for the players? Noah, I'll start with you.
I'm easily selling this one. In fact, I think this is a horrific thing. First of all, we just got news like 5 minutes before we started recording that they ditched the spring transfer portal. Now, in my opinion, guys, maybe some would disagree. I actually think they got it backwards. I think if they wanted to ditch any portal, it should have been this one. And here's why. Now, I don't disagree with the idea of transferring in general. I think, transferring is easier than it's ever been. I don't have a major problem with that. I don't have a major problem with guys transferring 2-3 times, which I know might be an unpopular opinion for some. What I do have a major issue, however, is when I see starting players realize, oh shit, we've had a bad start this season. I don't want to be associated with this team anymore. I don't want to lose a year of eligibility. What I'm going to do is I'm going to intentionally sit out, only play 4 games so that the redshirt rule kicks in intentionally, and I don't have to lose a year of eligibility. To me, I cannot stand this. I think it's a horrible look. I understand wanting to do what's best for you, right? But it just looks, from the outside perspective, it just looks so selfish. It looks like you're letting down your teammates. It looks like it's all about you. I just, once again, I could understand it if it's like, a guy that's buried on the depth chart and, he wants to put in his transfer application. That makes sense to me. Or a guy gets injured, they get an injury redshirt. That makes sense to me as well. But when it's a starting player, guys, like Nico Yamaleava has been so far for UCLA. He's been the one that's been heavily rumored to do something like this. I don't think they should be allowed to do that. In fact, if I were the NCAA, I would add a rule change that if you are a starting player when you enter the transfer portal to try, you should lose the year of eligibility anyway. It should be only if you're not a starting player. And I think that would fix this issue entirely. But nope, we're going to see more of what we saw last year. What was it? The UNLV guys, I believe, that did it last year, who,
Luca.
stopped playing and went into the transfer portal to save a year of eligibility. It's a total joke. Hard sell. This is an embarrassing look. It should not be able to be done, but it is. I do not like it at all, personally.
All right, Tom, are you buying or selling that this would be a good idea for any players that decide they would like to leave Virginia Tech or UCLA? Maybe they had committed to play for Brent Pry or Deshaun Foster. Now that coach is gone. Is it a good idea to explore this option? Are you buying or selling?
Right. I'm starting to think I should have been a little more clear with my intent here. For the players, I mean, if I'm them, you might want to buy it if you really don't think you're pro ready. But personally, I don't like this at all. So I do agree with Noah here. From that perspective, I'm selling it, right? But if I'm a player like a Nico Iamaleava, however you say his name, we might start calling him Ukulele 2.0. It's just wrong. I mean, look, Deshaun Foster was set up to fail at UCLA. I believe this was only his second year, right? Especially with merging into the Big Ten. At the time he took this head coaching job, I'm not sure he was fully aware of that. He's been a walking red flag, though, since his cringeworthy intro press conference. It was bad. The 35-10 loss to New Mexico was embarrassing. Morally wise, yeah, you have to sell this. This is a really bad idea. It's not right. You got players, and Andy and I know you and I have talked about this on the side. There are some real selfless players out there who've applied for these hardship waivers to get a fifth year of eligibility, and they're denied by the NCAA. Imagine playing 4 years of college sports. And I'm not trying to single out Illinois basketball, Andy. And you only play 10 games in your sophomore year, but it's the last 10 games of the year. That counts as a full year. When you got guys playing 6, 7, 8 years, it's embarrassing. It's pathetic. I don't like it. I know there's certain politics involved I'm not a fan of, as where if it goes past a certain deadline and you start playing again, it counts as a year. I think that's what happened with the Illinois guy, Andy. But, damn, the joke is on Nico, man. I mean, he quit Tennessee due to finances and now puts himself in a worse situation. I would avoid this guy in the transfer portal if I'm other teams. I wouldn't want to take him. What? He's going to join and he's going to want to leave my team now? Instability at quarterback. And then quickly here on Virginia Tech. By the way, guys, a couple of people at work were confused about this. Brent Pry, not Brent Key. Brent Key is Georgia Tech. Same conference, same first name, similar last name. It's, like apples and oranges here. Brent Pry fired by Virginia Tech. When you lose to Old Dominion 45-26 and you're sitting at 0-3, you deserve to get fired. And again, like Noah said earlier, I'm not rooting for anybody to get fired. I think the Virginia Tech players, Kyron Drones should not be allowed to transfer. There's some other guys that should not be allowed to transfer either. So all in all, Andy, to finish this drag out by me, I am selling this idea. But if I'm a player with the opportunity to do it, it's the rule. It's the current rule. It's hard not to. It's tempting.
I'm looking at this from the player perspective because that's kind of how I took it. And if I'm a player, I'm absolutely buying this. Depending on the situation, because you can look at it a couple different ways. No, I like what you said. Like, if you're a starter, why would you burn a year of being a starter? Like, you know what? You're going to have years where you're not very good in every sport. I understand wanting to, be a part of a winning team. I'm buying it as if I'm a player, if I committed to Brent Pry or Deshaun Foster. Like, what about let's look at this. What about a freshman that just came in that said, I wanted to play for these guys, so that's why I'm here. Like, I'm not going to fault one of them, and they're more likely to not have played to this point, so I'm not going to fault one of them for being like, well, let me jump in here and just see. But, yeah, I don't love it if you're, let's say the starting wide receiver, and you're, having tape for this year is better than having nothing. It's just such a tough situation. You never root for anybody to get fired, but like Deshaun Foster was in way over his head at UCLA. They need somebody that's actually like competent and is ready to be a head coach. And from all, I'm sure Deshaun's a nice guy. Like Noah said, you don't wish for anybody to get fired, but and I guess I don't hate that they do this because I feel like the players need to have flexibility too. And it's different everywhere you go. A lot of these players may be committed to Virginia Tech or UCLA because of one of the coordinators or the position coaches, or they just love that university and it didn't have to do with the coach. So I think we shouldn't be so quick to judge what these players are doing because at the end of the day, like, I don't know if we all work regular jobs, right? If we all signed up to work for somebody. Well, I don't know. It's your boss changes and maybe they're different and maybe you don't like them as much as your old boss. Nobody's forcing you to stay there. I'm going to enter the transfer portal for that too, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to buy this. I'm going to be a little bit different because I don't hate it, but it is weird to now encourage these guys 3 games in, be like, all right, you can leave if you want to, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let's move on to, I believe we have one more here. Is it time to push the panic button on both Arch Manning and Cade Klubnik? Noah, are you buying or selling this?
I'll just split it up again like I did the first one. So for Arch, I'm selling. Once again, guys, this guy is like 3 starts into his career as the full-time starter. I know he had 2 last year, but they were against, I don't even remember who they were against. That's what
yeah.
He had one game on the road at, currently the number 1 ranked team in the nation in Ohio State. And yeah, for most of the game, he wasn't amazing, but I mean, again, it's on the road at the current number 1 ranked team. He was much better in week 2. Again, I know it was only San Jose State or whatever, but he had like 4 touchdown passes. And yeah, in this game against UTEP, he was not good. 44% completion, touchdown, interception. But again, this is his 5th career start, man. Give these guys a chance to show what they're made of. So I'm definitely selling on Arch Manning for sure. I can understand the concern, but I wouldn't throw him under the bus just yet, like I've seen a lot of people doing. Again, I think it's a classic thing, guys. We mentioned how his name benefits him. I also think it hurts him in a certain way. He has a microscope on him. Every mistake he makes is going to be amplified, and that's what I think is happening here. As for Klubnik, again, I think the thing with Clemson, I think it's more than Klubnik. I think they're missing Williams. I think you could question what is Garrett Riley doing with the play calling. I think you could question the offensive line. It is a bit concerning, however, when obviously I'm not saying it's all his fault, but like Andy mentioned earlier, that stat I saw about his record against Power 5 opponents. I mean, compared to other quarterbacks they've had, and I'm not even talking guys like, the top tier like Watson or Lawrence were, but even guys like Kelly Bryant, Taj Boyd. I mean, these names blast from the past. It's still not even a, comparison compared to what the team has done during the Klubnik era. So I would probably sell. However, I do think there is a bit more concern with Klubnik because, coming in the season, he's considered, Heisman favorite, experienced quarterback, all that, what have you. But I do think there are bigger issues there. I wouldn't say he's the biggest issue. He might be an issue, but he isn't the issue, in my opinion.
Sure. Tom, are you buying or selling this?
Selling on Arch, 3 games. The 55% completion percentage, whatever. Tough opponents, Ohio State, tough game. 6 touchdowns, 3 picks. He also has 3 rushing touchdowns. And look, he's trying to get his feet wet, playing in the SEC. Let's see how he plays in the meat of the SEC schedule. Right now, he's carving up some good experience. I'm excited to see what happens for him in SEC play. I think he's going to be just fine. Klubnik, as far as his future, I want to sell it, but as far as this season goes for Clemson, I am buying it right now because it looks like he is an average QB at best in this situation that he's in without Antonio Williams. If you throw him on Miami, if you throw him on Notre Dame, if you throw him on Ohio State, I think he's a completely different quarterback. We also have to remember last year he had 36 touchdowns to 6 picks. Andy, I know you're a ratio guy. 6 touchdowns to 1 pick is a pretty good ratio. So this season, it's a bit different. It's 1-to-1 right now. We'll see if that ratio improves. Clemson does have a favorable schedule the rest of the way, so you'd like to think Klubnik gets it together. I'm not smashing the panic button on Klubnik, but I might be tapping it a little bit based off where they are right now, 1-2, and they should have lost to Troy, and he didn't look good against Troy. Like Noah said, yep, not all his fault, but he is part of the problem right now at Clemson.
Yeah, I am going to be pretty close here. I'm selling this for Arch. His first full year as the starter. You look at what he's done, 579 yards to the air, 6 touchdowns, 3 picks. He has added 112 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns there. I'd take that through, 3 games for them to this point with your redshirt sophomore quarterback. You go over to Klubnik, though. This is his senior year. He has been the starter for, I guess, going on 3 years now. 2022, he kind of came in here and there. He has 633 yards, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, like you guys said. He's been sacked 3 times. He has 59 yards on the ground and 1 score. He just does not look like how your senior quarterback for a top 5 team, which they were ranked, is supposed to look. So I don't know if I'm fully selling it. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm fully buying it. My hand is hovering over the buy button for sure at this point because, something's got to give. They have to start. I mean, they might have to win out. They're in a position like Notre Dame, Tom, where they need as many wins as they can get, sitting at 1-2. They're going to have to try to make the ACC championship game. And still, even then, I think they're not better than Florida State right now. They're not better than Miami by a long stretch. So they're going to have some work to do. And who knows what happens in the ACC? Somebody gets frisky and takes them out. We could be talking about a 9-3 Clemson. So who knows? But I don't know if it's time to fully panic yet. But you certainly can't be excited about what you've seen from Klubnik so far. So we have one more segment. This is just real quick. I wanted to bring up before we go into our 6-pack. It's called Flag on the Play. I want to see if you guys think this is fair or foul. So it's a little interesting. So obviously we talked about Diego Pavia earlier. So his attorney apparently set the stage to challenge for a 7th season of eligibility. So he's in his 2nd season at Vanderbilt. I believe he spent 2 seasons at New Mexico. Before that, it was either 1 year or 2 years at New Mexico Military Institute. So he's already been in college for 6 years now. They argued that the NCAA, shouldn't count his 2 years at a non-NCAA institution, plus the NIL earnings and all that stuff. So his preliminary injunction against the NCAA was granted in December 2024, allowing him to play this year. Argued that the redshirt rule involving junior college eligibility violates antitrust law. Following that ruling, the NCAA issued a blanket waiver for 25-26 that granted an extra year to athletes who previously competed at a non-NCAA school for 1 or more years and otherwise would have exhausted their NCAA eligibility for the 24-25 season. So there was a hearing on Tuesday in the U.S. Court of Appeals in the 6th Circuit. Pavia's attorney said that unless the rules are not found to be subject to antitrust, They're going to stack on a challenge to the redshirt rule and ask for an injunction so Pavia can play in 2026. This is according to sports law professor Sam Ehrlich. This is an article on On3. Pavia wrote on X later, "This is my last year." He broke cap. He initially filed the lawsuit in November 2024 against the NCAA, arguing because the governing body counts junior college. Okay, we already went over that. In June, Pavia said he was offered $4 to $4.5 million to transfer. Sources have told On3 the quarterback is making north of $2 million this season. Yeah, I can see why you'd want to come back for a 7th year of eligibility. His injunction resulted in more than 30 college athletes filing lawsuits seeking additional eligibility. Yeah, so Tom, I'll start with you on this one. Are you throwing a flag on the play? Is this fair or foul? That they could stack on to this injunction and try to get him a 7th year.
Let it go. This is his 4th year since graduating from junior college. As you mentioned, Pavia did right. This is my last year. Yeah, he was offered $4 to $4.5 million to transfer from Vanderbilt. That's a boatload of money. Ultimately, there is no evidence that he is pushing for a 7th year from him specifically. His lawyer, his attorney, whatever, you can make an argument about that, but it needs to come directly from the source, Diego Pavia. But if you do 1 or more years at junior college, like 1 or 2 years, you still have 4 years of NCAA eligibility left. That's how the current system is. Pavia is within the correct reign right now. He did 2 years at New Mexico State. Now he's done 2 years at Vanderbilt. Now, I know a lot of people are saying him and his agent, his attorney, need to communicate better to make sure this stuff doesn't get out there, that it doesn't get leaked, that it doesn't get twisted. I'm in the mindset that until there's concrete evidence from multiple sources that this is a sincere, alarming thing, that I am not throwing the flag. And not to mention, they have a big game this week, guys. They're trying to make map in the SEC. They're trying to put their school on the map. Definitely let this go.
Noah, are you throwing a flag on this one, or you think it's fair game?
The actual idea, I do not think is fair game. So if that's what they're arguing, I'm going to throw the flag on this one, because here's the thing, right? I agreed with the lawsuit he had last year. I do think it was right for him to get another year of eligibility there. I don't think it's fair to, because he was in JUCO 2 years or whatever, that he only played 3 years at the FBS level. I agreed with him getting that 4th year. I think it makes sense. Past that, I don't think there's really a case, because, like Tom said, this is his 4th year as a starter, guys. If you look at his, box sheet since he's transferred to FBS level, 2022 and 2023 for New Mexico State, he had 8 games started, 15 games started, last year 13, and this year 3, and obviously he's going to be the starter the rest of the year. That's 4 years starting, guys. That's what we call a normal college-length career. You don't need any more than that. As long as I've been watching college football, at least what it used to be was, you'd have 5 potential years of eligibility, 4 normal, and a potentially 1 redshirt.
5
That's
years to
it.
play for.
But the problem is, well, I wouldn't say it's a problem, but here's where I actually, for once, will side with the NCAA over the player perspective on this one. Is redshirt rules are more liberal than they've ever been, guys. They are very lenient with redshirts now. You can get redshirts for injuries. Remember that Cam McCormick, tight end for Miami a few years back?
He played for like 8 years, yeah.
9 years of eligibility because he had a normal redshirt. Then he had like 2 to 3 injury redshirts. Remember Frank Harris, UTSA quarterback? 7 years of eligibility. Again, normal redshirt. Then he had a few injury redshirts. All right. If this lawyer, which to my understanding, so when I initially saw this, I was about to unload on Pavia because I thought it was him that was responsible for this, but then obviously it came out later it was not. So I'm not going to blame him at all for any of this. It sounds like, to me, the lawyer is pushing for this on a general basis, but he's using Pavia's name as like an example of what they're thinking of. Is my understanding of it. Obviously, I could be wrong on that, but I don't see any case for this. He has 4 years as a starter. That's what it is. I mean, these lawyers must not remember, guys. 10, 15 years ago, first of all, you weren't even guaranteed to get a redshirt at all. even if you had a legitimate reason, if you wanted to, for example, move to a different college to spend time close to your family or whatever, you weren't even guaranteed to get a redshirt or a transfer then. Now
Right.
these days you can transfer whenever you want. We just mentioned you can sit out the rest of the season if you want to transfer at the end of the year. You can redshirt multiple times if you have injuries. You can transfer as much as you want. It's not like there's a lack of player rights, in my opinion, in the current NCAA. So again, I think it's pretty clear cut. He's had 4 years starting. That's all there is to it. No justification for this, in my opinion.
I'm with you guys on this. You got your shot. This is your 4th year at the D1 level. I don't believe you should get another one. He said that he's not looking for one. This could just be this attorney, trying to find a loophole, and maybe he's got other clients in the NCAA that are looking for other additional eligibility as well. But yeah, I think you guys really gave some good perspectives on that one. And I believe so. Right now, the rule is they have 5 years to play 4, so you could use that red shirt. And then obviously, if you get a medical red shirt, there's different stuff like that. I know that Brett Bielema is currently advocating for everybody to get 5 years of eligibility, so they wouldn't have to worry about stuff like this, and there'd be less people worried about burning red shirts and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be an interesting thing to follow. But it's that time of the week, folks. Let's go to the 6-pack. We're previewing 6 of the best games, or what we think will be the best games of week 4. We're going to start it off with a big one in the Big 12. Number 17, Texas Tech, going to number 16, Utah, 11 a.m. Central Time on Fox. Tommy Boy, we'll start with you.
2 3-0 teams in the Big 12, 2 of the top 3 preseason favorites, I believe, and the Red Raiders get their first real road game of the season. They spent the second most amount of NIL money this past year on their football program in the entire country, guys. That offense currently, they played a bunch of cupcakes, but the games are what they are. They average 58 points per game. Baron Morton is an awesome veteran quarterback, 923 yards, 11 touchdowns to 1 pick, but most importantly, he's only been sacked twice. And yes, you could say, oh, well, they played nobody. They have the number 2 passing offense in the nation, only behind Boston College. I never thought we would see the day that would be a thing for the first 3 games, but it is. And they still have a decent running game on top of it. They're 26th in the FBS in the run game. Adam Hill averaging over 8.5 yards. Cameron Dickey as well with 4 touchdowns, 177 yards. And remember, they lost their starting running back for the season before the season even got underway. So these are really their 2 and 3 options doing this, which is impressive. And, man, I love what they have in the receiving core with Coy Eakin. 12 catches for 245 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he's kind of taken the spotlight away from Caleb Douglas, who, in my opinion, going into the season, was their number 1 receiver. He's still putting up good numbers, but he's getting a lot of blanket-type coverage. So what does that do? It opens the door for a guy like Coy Eakin to be a big play machine. And I can't talk about Texas Tech without mentioning their tight end, Terrence Carter Jr., with 3 touchdowns on the season. He is a touchdown maker. And I love what they bring defensively. They got David Bailey in the transfer portal, 2.5 sacks. He'll be a high draft pick next year if he declares. Romello Height with 2.5 sacks, and I love their linebacker, John Curry, sideline to sideline. He's quick. And then Cole Wisniewski on the back line. He had an awesome sack in last week's game. And for Utah, I'm a little concerned about them offensively. Their wide receiver, Dadrin Zipri, is out for the remainder of the 2025 season, but they have an awesome young quarterback in Devon Dampier. 73% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns, turnover free thus far, only sacked twice. So both offensive lines have done phenomenal jobs. Dampier can also run as well. I love his targets. You talk about Ryan Davis and Dallin Bentley, the tight end, 2 guys that can really catch the ball over the middle of the field. That have some good breakout speed. Even the tight end, he's one of the quicker tight ends in the nation. And defensively for them, John Henry Daly should be a key in this game. Not many guys have 5 sacks through 3 weeks at the college football level. I don't care who you're playing out there. That's impressive. Um, and Utah has two-way players on their team. One of them is Lander Barton, who's one of the top-rated linebackers in this year's class. He also has a touchdown reception. So that is creative offensive play style for sure. But all in all, if you guys remember on the week 1 show, I said one team that could be a dark horse this year to win the Big 12. It's Texas Tech. Give me the Red Raiders on the road in a difficult, very difficult place to play.
Tommy's taking Texas Tech. Noah, what do you think about the Utes and the Red Raiders?
Interesting matchup. First real test for both of these teams because, I'm just looking at schedules. Let's be honest, guys. Neither of these teams have played anybody. Utah has played UCLA, who we just mentioned already, had their coach fired. They're 0-3. And Wyoming. And Texas Tech has played Kent State, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Oregon State. So really just the first major test for both of these teams. For Texas Tech, Tom mentioned Morton. I think he's looked really good so far. 11 touchdowns, only 1 interception this season, guys. Completing 70.4% of his passes. He's looked great. Dickey with 4 rushing touchdowns, but Adam Hill as well, 8.6 yards per carry so far this season. That is ridiculously efficient. My boy Coy Eakin, 1 letter away from the same name as former NHL player Cody Eakin. It kind of looks like him as well. They're both gingers. But he's been great so far this season as well, guys. 245 yards, 3 touchdowns. But can't forget Terrence Carter as well with 3 touchdowns. These guys as well. 20.4 yards per reception for Eakin, 19.4 for Carter. So 2 deep threats as well. Defensively, some solid pieces. David Bailey and Romello Height, both with 2.5 sacks on the season so far, guys. As for Utah, main standout for me is Devon Dampier. So I actually watched him a good bit at New Mexico last year. He's a guy that so his passing stats didn't, pop off. He had like 58% completion, 12 touchdowns, 12 picks. But where he really stood out, guys, is with his legs. He had over 1,000 yards rushing and 19 rush touchdowns this season. And this season, like Tom said, he's cleaned up the turnovers so far. Now, again, I know they haven't really played anybody, but through 3 games, he has 8 total touchdowns, no interceptions. He's also completing 73% of his passes. Parker, the starting running back, 7.1 yards per carry. Again, 2 touchdowns. They also have Naquari Rogers, who has 4 touchdowns so far this season. Solid receiving core, I think. But defensively, they have some pieces. I mean, Tom mentioned John Henry Daly. First of all, talk about a football name, man. But 5 sacks through 3 games so far this season. He mentioned Barton. They also have 2 other linebackers, Jonathan Hall and Trey Reynolds. Both have interceptions this season. So, interesting matchup once again. I mean, 17 versus 16 line is 3.5. I'm going to give an edge to Utah just because they're at home, and I also have more faith in their defense. I think the thing with teams like Texas Tech is you see them, look good against easier teams, but then when they play tougher competition, they have like those 45-42 type of games, guys. And I don't think this is the those old Utah teams that will win games like 17-10 or something like that. I think with Dampier at quarterback, they have a bit more explosiveness this season. And Rice Eccles is a tough place to play, man. You do not want to go in there against a bunch of angry storming Mormons and expect to have an easy time, man. So give me Utah on this one by a touchdown.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm going to take the Utes as well. Rice Eccles is a tough place to play, especially when Utah is good. Dampier's been awesome. I look for him to make some plays with his legs. And Morton, better watch out for John Henry Daly if he is able to get into the backfield. Let's move on. Number 22, Auburn at number 11, Oklahoma, 2:30 p.m. on ABC. We have a Jackson Arnold revenge game, boys. Noah, this is an SEC matchup, so I will default to you on this. What do you have going in this game?
In my opinion, this is Auburn's first major test this season to see if they're actually a legit breakout team or if it's just, been kind of a fluke start. They did look good against Baylor, and Baylor is a respectable team, but let's be honest, that's not going to be the same level as going on the road to face a team like number 11 Oklahoma, guys. Oklahoma so far this season, guys, statistically has the best defense in the entire SEC. They're basically top 3 in every single defensive stat you could think of, and number 1 in pretty much most of them. Brent Venables, who former Clemson DC, is really making his mark on that defense, which is really impressive because Oklahoma, guys, for years on end was one of those teams that, again, would have to win games 55-52 pretty much if they wanted to win. That is not the case for this Oklahoma team this year. Auburn, I think, has looked impressive. I think Arnold has looked good. 4 touchdowns, no interceptions so far this season, 69% completion percentage. Their running game is really solid. They're averaging 5.8 yards per carry on the ground this season, 10 rushing touchdowns through 3 games. Eric Singleton and Cam Coleman, I think, is a solid top 2 at wide receiver. The kicker, Alex McPherson, basically automatic. Their defenses look good. They have 12 sacks through 3 games, so that is 11, excuse me. So very impressive so far for them. On the other side for Oklahoma, I think the big thing has been bringing in John Mateer to replace Jackson Arnold. His stats, I wouldn't say jump off the page. He's had 3 interceptions, but what I've noticed is the eye test. I'll see him make, that's a head scratching throw, but then he'll make a throw 2 plays later. For instance, I don't know if you guys remember this play, but in the Michigan game, he had a throw where he scrambled out of the pocket to the right and threw it perfectly on the dot, sideline throw down to the 5 to, I can't remember who he threw it to, but I mean, it was just insane throw. That's the type of stuff, in my opinion, that Mateer can do that I would question if Jackson Arnold would be able to do the same type of thing. And again, Oklahoma is a team that is usually pretty good at running the ball. This season, they actually only averaged 4.1 yards per carry. That's a bit surprising, but their starter, Torrey Blaylock, is an animal. Average number of 5 yards per carry, also has 3 touchdowns. John Mateer as well, 4 rushing touchdowns to add to his 5 touchdown passes. In the end, I think Auburn has had a good start. I don't think they're good enough to beat this Oklahoma team. I think Oklahoma is going to take a big step this year. Brent Venables last year was kind of getting his feet wet or whatever, adapting the SEC or whatever. I think he's ready now, and I think this Oklahoma team is legit, and they're going to make the college football playoff. I'm saying it right now. They're going to get a nice boost to their campaign as well with a ranked win here. I don't even know if it's going to – well, it'll be competitive. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I don't think it'll be in doubt. I think it's going to be a type of game where Oklahoma wins by 10 points.
10-point win for the Sooners is what Noah is predicting. Tom, how do you see this game shaking out?
Yeah, look, this is the homecoming for Jackson Arnold, right? 2 head coaches who, Hugh Freeze definitely on the hot seat heading into this season. Brent Venables still trying to catch his footing in SEC play. What do? They dip into the transfer portal, get 2 QBs. Arnold has played in this place before. Turnover list so far through the air, 4 touchdowns passing, 4 rushing. Noah talked about all their skilled players. I think they have 2 awesome receivers, like he mentioned. Defensively, Kieron Crawford is a beast inside. I also think Xavier Atkins is a really good disguised blitzer. You saw it in their game last week. John Mateer, I think, is a step above Jackson Arnold as far as quarterback play goes. Now, I know Mateer brings those 3 interceptions, but this is the thing about Oklahoma. They don't need their running game to be good for them to win football games because their passing attack has been clicking on all cylinders. I mean, they have been insane. Deion Burks, Jared Kanik, the tight end. And to add to that, Oklahoma's been dominant defensively. I mean, you got Sammy Omosayo, who has been an awesome linebacker. For Hugh Freeze, unfortunately, his offense might freeze on Saturday. Oklahoma wins and covers.
Yeah, give me the Sooners here in this one. Jackson Arnold, I think, is going to have a lot of motivation to come in and play well. I just don't know if Auburn is going to have enough. He has 4 touchdowns on the year and 501 yards. Really look for Jeremiah Cobb to get involved. They're going to need him to run the ball effectively. He's got 314 yards, 4 touchdowns on just 46 carries so far this year. If Auburn wants to win, they're going to have to control time of possession and keep Mateer off the field. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. I'm going to take Oklahoma at home. That's a sweep, boys. Let's move on. In the Big Ten, number 21, Michigan and Bryce Underwood going to Lincoln to play Nebraska 2:30 p.m. on CBS. Sharon Moore not coaching this game. Interim head coach Biff Poggi for the Wolverines. Noah, what do you think, Nebraska or Michigan?
Another tough game because I think overall, I believe Michigan is a better team than Nebraska. I think most would agree with that. But the problem I have with Michigan is their biggest question mark is at the most important position at quarterback with Bryce Underwood. You know, this is his third career or fourth career start. Excuse me. Um, he's looked. You know, I mean, in that Oklahoma game we just finished talking about Oklahoma, he just was not at the races at all whatsoever. 9 of 24 in that game for 142 yards, 37.5% completion percentage. And his other two games are against New Mexico and Central Michigan. So I mean, that's just really not a good basis to base off of that. Whereas Raiola, I think, you know, again, he hasn't really played anybody. They beat Cincy week 1, 20-17. You know, Cincy's a respectable team. But Raiola is a really talented guy for sure. I mean, another former 5-star. He's got 8 touchdowns, no interceptions so far this season. In my opinion, big quarterback advantage in this one, at least just from what we've seen for Nebraska. But again, you know, this is a Michigan team that has flaws. They are missing Sharon Moore in this game that you mentioned, which maybe a hot take. I don't necessarily know that's a bad thing because if you look at Moore's record at Michigan, it is not that good. Let's just put it that way, especially for a program of this caliber. But again, you know, it's the thing. Can you put trust in Nebraska to win a big game like this? I mean, spread is -1.5 for Michigan, so you know, basically seen as a dead even game. Can you know Michigan kind of rebound? They need some more offense. They need someone to give some help to Justice Haynes. But Nebraska has some weapons as well. How about Kentucky wide receiver or Kentucky transfer Dane Key? 13 catches so far this season, 190 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's looked really good. They also have a stud running back in Emmett Johnson, who has 4 touchdowns so far this season, averaging over 6 yards per carry. There's star talent across the board in this one. Now, this really might bite me in the butt. I usually would never, ever pick Nebraska in a big game from what we've seen for the past few years. But I think there's a level of uncertainty with Michigan that you would usually not expect from them. You know, maybe 2, 3 years ago, if it was a Harbaugh team with Sharon Moore out, with an unproven quarterback going on the road at Lincoln is a very tough place to play. Um, I'm gonna do it, man. I usually wouldn't do this. I'm gonna pick Nebraska to win this game by a field goal.
Huskers by a field goal, adding to the drama. They always seem to find themselves at the end of these one-score games, and especially recently have not always found themselves on top of those. Tom, how do you see the Michigan and Nebraska contest shaking out?
Yeah, look, this is a big game. Obviously, you guys know I work in sports, and we got to interview Dylan Raiola this week at work, which was awesome. You know, the Patrick Mahomes wannabe, for those of you who were wondering. But to be honest, yeah, Nebraska definitely has the upper hand on the surface here. You know, Sharon Moore not back until October 4th. Freshman QB on the road has looked a little shaky, growing pains. The identity of their offense is Justice Haynes. And you have 2 really good Big Ten defenses here. There's not going to be a lot of points scored in this game. When I look at Michigan defensively, I look at Cole Sullivan. I look at Jashawn Barrow. Those guys really need to step up and make plays. The Wolverines have already caused 7 turnovers this season, so Raiola does need to be careful with the football. He has been so far. 8 touchdowns, no picks, over 800 yards through the air, and a 76.5% completion percentage. This offense averages 49 points per game, 12th best in the FBS. They have Emmett Johnson on the ground, who has been scoring a lot of touchdowns. Noah mentioned Dane Key. He's a solid player. Chakori Barney Jr. and Isaiah Hunter as well have been good. But the Cornhuskers defense, they've also forced 4 fumbles already this season. Nebraska has not beaten Michigan since November 9th, 2013. I think Matt Rule and the Cornhuskers also get it done for a slight upset this week.
Tom is taking the Huskers as well as Noah. Look, I think it's going to be really tough for Bryce Underwood in this game. Biff Poggi has talked about how much he trusts the kid and how coachable he is. But they're certainly going to have, they're going to be working uphill in this game, dealing with the noise of Lincoln. Illinois went there last year and they escaped in overtime with an experienced quarterback. Just to tell you how tough it is, I don't know if Michigan gets it done. Give me the Huskers as well. That's where I have another sweep here. Nebraska at home over the Wolverines. All right, we have just a couple games left. We're going to go to my team. Number 9, Illinois at number 19, Indiana, 6:30 p.m. on NBC and Peacock. Brett and the boys marching into Bloomington for a ranked versus ranked matchup in this Illinois-Indiana rivalry. They all, like, Indiana fans always say, like, we think they're rivals. We don't think about Indiana. Nobody thinks about Indiana. Your football team is fucking irrelevant. You have one charity college football playoff appearance where you made it and you got boat raced against a real team because you don't play against real teams. You beat up on nobodies, and then when it's time to play somebody who's worth the shit, you lose. It's what happened all year last year, and it's going to fucking happen on Saturday. Luke and the boys are going to come in and hang their nuts all over Signetti and Mendoza. So actually, these two quarterbacks have performed pretty close to each other. Altmaier's 56 for 78, 8 scores, 709 yards. Mendoza's 55 for 76, 9 scores, and 708 yards on the ground. Hank Beatty's going to have to get involved here through the air. I need Gabe Backus wreaking a havoc in the backfield. He's got 3.5 sacks so far for the Illini. I'm a little bit concerned about how the offensive line is going to hold up. They have struggled so far this year, specifically last week. In the first half, they didn't look great. And also against Duke in the first half, they didn't look great. That being said, look at what we did in the second half. We were winning 10-0 last week against Western Michigan. Not great. End up winning the game 38-0. So this team has proven that they are able to make adjustments at halftime, kind of reset themselves, and they're going to need to do so. People in Bloomington are going to be fired up, which rightfully so. Signetti is a great coach. Look, of course, I'm just talking shit, but there is some truth to it. We'll see if they can actually fill the stadium this time. But given the Illini, we're dogs right now. Indiana's 5.5-point favorites. Let's shock the world. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, that line is a little disgraceful in my opinion. I get it, Indiana's home, but I don't necessarily think it should be 5.5, maybe 2.5, maybe by a field goal. Andy, correct me if I'm wrong. Has Illinois' offense turned it over once yet? I believe no, right? You've had 0 turnovers through 3 weeks.
Punted a couple times, but yeah, no turnovers.
Basically, Luke Altmaier is a turnover-free quarterback, mistake-free guy, 8 touchdowns, no picks. I like what you got in the backfield. I like what you got at the receiving corps. You mentioned Beatty. We've talked about Fagan and Woffrey and those guys. Miles Scott defensively is awesome. Xavier Scott as well. Matchup of the game is going to be Yakis against Carter Smith, Indiana's starting left tackle. Brett Bielema mentioned he wants to start faster this week. These teams met 2 years ago back in Champaign, Illinois, where Illinois won 48-45. The Illini last won in the shoe in 2011. Now, Fernando Mendoza is an interesting QB. When I first looked at this game, I said, oh, Illinois is winning by a touchdown. But the more I looked into this Indiana rush offense is outstanding. They have 3 running backs already with over 200 rushing yards. And yes, the opponents have been extremely weak. But Roman Hemby, Kalen Black, Lee Beebe Jr., all of these guys can make plays. They are the number 3 rushing team in the nation. Last year, Illinois had problems. I think it was against Penn State on the road. The Hoosiers averaged 308 yards on the ground, and they're steered by veteran Notre Dame transfer offensive lineman Pat Coogan as their starting center. This guy is a leader. He is the anchor of that offensive line. Omar Cooper Jr. with 4 touchdowns, Elijah Surratt with 3. Also, former Notre Dame tight end Holden Stays is there. Only 4 catches, though. I definitely want to see him get more involved in the pass game. Another matchup for me when Illinois has the football, it's Indiana DB Lewis Moore, who has 17 tackles and 2 picks, going up against the Illini stud wide receiver and Hank Beatty. Um, I also think the Hoosiers have improved their defense. Aiden Fisher is healthy. Isaiah Jones with 2 sacks. I think this is going to be a very close game. If it was in Champaign, like I said, I think Illinois wins by 4 to 7 points. But since they're at Indiana, give me the cigarettes.
All right. I don't hate you for taking that pick because it makes sense.
Sorry,
They're
Andy.
favored. It's all right. Let's avoid a sweep. I like that. Tom, you're Tom. You just talked. Noah, what do you think about the Illini and the Hoosiers?
Oh man, this is first of all, I think this is a game. Take the rankings, number 9 versus number 19 out of the window. I think this is basically a dead even game, guys. I think this is a game that's going to go right down to the wire. You have a team in Indiana that made the CFP last year, a team in Illinois that was in contention for the CFP as well, and looks in very good contention for it this season. First of all, I just want to say this before I get into talking about the actual game. You guys know I'm a big SEC guy, but it is an absolute joke that a snooze fest like Florida Miami is getting college game day over this absolute gem of a matchup, man. 2 3-0 teams with CFP contention on the line. This is absolute joke. But yeah, getting into the actual game itself, like Andy mentioned, the discrepancy between the stats for the quarterback in this game is non-existent. It was actually kind of ridiculous when I was looking at it. How similar it is, I think, Altmaier and Mendoza, both 2 very solid players for sure. Indiana at home as well, which, I believe Tom said they haven't won there since 2011. So, definitely not a gimme game by any means for Illinois. 2 really good coaches as well, guys. Man, I mean, I think it's basically a coin flip game. I think both these teams are very solid. I think they're both going to be in the CFP running most of the season. Ah, geez. You know what? I'm gonna pick Indiana just because I have a little bit more faith in them, man. I think they look really strong this season. Let's be honest, neither of these teams have really played anyone, but at least Illinois had that Duke win, a Power Five win on the road that was very impressive. I'm looking at Indiana's schedule, guys. I mean, this is just the softest thing I've ever seen so far. If the toughest team he played so far is probably Old Dominion and Kennesaw State, I mean, this is definitely their first big test. I do think it'd be very close. Let me see what is the over under. I completely closed the page. I don't know what the over under is. But I think it might be mid
52
40s.
and a half.
52 and a half. Okay. I think it's probably going to be a little under. I think this game might be a bit more defensive than people expect. But I'm going to pick Illinois to win it 27 to 23. There you go.
All right. We have 2 for the Illini and 1 for the Hoosiers. All right. I like it. Let's go. That'll be a big one. I will be unbearable from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. on Saturday. South Carolina going to number 23 Mizzou. This one's at 6 p.m. on ESPN. I'll start real quick. Give me Bo Pribula and the Tigers. I think they're going to be too much, especially if Lenoris Sellers is questionable. With or without him, they really could not get the offense going, and Mizzou has been explosive to start the year. They put up 61, 42, and 52 points. I don't see them slowing down. Yes, the competition on defense is going to be a little better now. They're facing South Carolina. Obviously, they've gone up against Louisiana, Kansas, and Central Arkansas. So these SEC boys on defense are going to present a little bit more of a challenge, but I just don't foresee them being able to slow down the Tigers' attack. So I'll start us off, and I'll take Mizzou. Noah, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this one's pretty easy for me. I said before the season, they're my dark horse for a reason. Missouri looks really good so far this season. Again, you can say they haven't played anybody, but they've looked explosive. Pribula has looked great. And South Carolina has issues, regardless of if Sellers or not plays. It doesn't change the fact their team as a whole this season, guys, is averaging 3.2 yards on the ground. Their leading receiver, Nick Carver, 165. But past that, they don't have another guy above 100 yards. It's basically, Nick Carver, with the deep catcher. They don't really have much of a passing game either. We saw their defense has issues last week as well, getting steamrolled by Vanderbilt. And I think for Missouri, I mean, they've just been very, clean football so far. Good football as well. Hardy is a stud, by the way. This dude's averaging over not or close to 9 yards per carry on the ground for Missouri. Kevin Coleman as well as a great in the passing game. The defense has looked solid. I just don't see really any advantage that South Carolina has in this game, guys. And by the way, it's in Memorial Stadium as well, so Missouri has that advantage as well. Look, Tom said it earlier, and I agree with his take. South Carolina will not be ranked the rest of the year because Missouri is going to go in there and they're going to get their business done. They're going to win this game 35-14. Big win for the Tigers on download.
Big win for the Tigers is what Noah is predicting. Tom, how do you see this one shaking out?
Yeah, Eli Drinkwitz has a special team this year. Pribula at QB is awesome. 76% completion percentage, 7 touchdowns through the air, 3 on the ground. We talked about Ahmad Hardy. They're averaging over 6 yards per carry, 302 rush yards per game. That's 5th best in the nation. And they got really good weapons offensively. Kevin Coleman Jr. and tight end Brett Norfleet brings the meat in the red zone. 3 touchdown receptions. That's 1 per game thus far. You might want to bet on him to grab another this week. Gamecocks coming off a tough blowout loss. They said Lenora Sellers is showing positive signs. I don't know what that means. I still don't know if it'll be him or Luke Doty. I don't think it's going to matter. Noah just mentioned this. They can't run the football. But their defense does have a knack for causing turnovers. They've caused 4 thus far. If they have a chance, they're going to need to do that. I think Missouri wins by 10, 11 points. Give me the Tigers.
Another sweep here, this one for Missouri. That takes us to our last game of the week. One that Noah mentioned earlier, one that we're not really sure how this one got game day, but it's Florida at number 4, Miami. Florida coming off that rough performance against LSU. Miami coming off the absolute ass whooping against USF. Tom, I'll start with you. The Canes and Carson Beck, or does DJ Lagway have a miracle performance in his back pocket?
Yeah, get yourself a can of whoop ass, folks. Carson Beck is going to have a great game. 79% completion percentage. I believe Noah said that leads the nation right now. Miami favored by 7.5. Beck's only been sacked twice. That offensive line is awesome. Maui Goa at tackle has been really, really good. Mark Fletcher on the ground 4 times he's reached the end zone already. The young freshman stud in Malachi Toney is really tough to cover. We saw Notre Dame struggle against him. C.J. Daniels as well, good weapon in the pass game. Reuben Bain Jr., really good off the edge. Akeem Messador, 2 sacks. And I mentioned Bryce Fitzgerald, the guy who plays sparingly, but when he's in the game, he makes plays. Gators have not beat the Canes since 2019. The Gators have not won in Miami since 1985. Lagway, 6 interceptions. Bad ratio. That's 2 per game, guys. He had 5 last week. Jaden Baugh is going to have to find a way to get some yardage going. Florida's going to have to win the trenches. Spoiler alert, they won't. Gators have only 2 sacks. Their lack of pressure is concerning on opposing quarterbacks. But all in all, it's the Battle of Florida. Anybody could win this game. I think the Gators shock the world and lose by 5 touchdowns. Give me Miami.
Oh, really?
He got me for a second.
Got us there for a second, Mr. Scavetta. Noah, how hard will you be pointing and laughing at the Gators on Saturday night?
Man, you guys know that meme where it's like that one wheel on the shopping cart where like all the other wheels are fine and then there's one squeaky wheel? That's what it's like seeing this game on the 6-pack, man. You have all these other interesting matchups, and then you see this matchup where you have an absolute like FCS level school in Florida so far, playing one of the hottest teams in the nation in Miami. My read on this is DJ Lagwood would get benched at halftime because they're gonna be up like they're gonna be down like 28-0 at halftime. They're just gonna try and save his body from the absolute shellacking they're gonna get up front with not being able to block this defensive line. This defense I do think the Florida defense might do okay, but I don't think they're gonna be able to keep them in the game. And on the other side, we mentioned it earlier. Miami has looked clinical so far this season. Beck looks good. Fletcher's a beast on the ground. Their weapons look solid. That Malachi Tony, what a deep threat at wide receiver, and their defenses look solid as well. Look, Mario Cristobal is going to absolutely coach circles around poor Billy Napier. He's going to have to be polishing up his pink slip after the Florida loses this game 49-7. It's going to be one of the biggest embarrassments of the entire college football season. It's not even going to be close. And I will be pointing and laughing the entire time.
I'll take the Hurricanes as well. That's a sweep for our last game. Just zero faith in Billy Napier. So before we close it out, it's time for our lock of the week. Tom, I will start with you on this because you are 3-0, undefeated. Who do you like this week?
Let's make it 4-0. Miami, Florida, -7.5. I can't believe the spread is this low. I mean, I know LSU only beat them by 10 last week. Get it while it's down because it's only going to get more Miami's favor from here. This is guaranteed to hit.
Guaranteed to hit. Fucking mark that down. Noah, unfortunate that the Cougars did not come through for you last week. Apparently the Cougars were not as big of Noah guys as Noah is a big of a Cougar guy, if that makes sense. But who do you like this week?
Yeah, hey man, I'll tell you one thing. I've seen a lot of choke jobs from Cougars throughout the years of my life, but this has got to be up near the top of the list. This was just, man, I've been watching football for 14 years. I've been podcast number 5, so that has got to be in my top 3 worst predictions of all time, man. It was just like 50 whatever to 7 it was. I mean, it was just not good. So you know what? I'm going for some revenge this week, man. Apple Cup is this week. I'm expecting the Washington Huskies to dominate those Cougars with ease, running away. Give me the Huskies for my lock of the week. Cougars let me down. I'm not putting my faith in them again.
Wow.
The Cougars are on the shit list. If I had $1 for every time that happened, I'd be a very rich man. I was so confident in one thing and the exact opposite thing happens. For mine, I'm going to go Florida State and Kent State over 56.5. I think Florida State is going to cover that number by themselves. They just put up 77 on Texas A&M Commerce. Kent State is one of the worst teams in the FBS. They did finally get a win this year, but so far they beat Merrimack 21-17, almost lost to them. Gave up 62 to Texas Tech, and I think Florida State is better than Texas Tech. So give me Tommy Castellanos and the Noles to cover over 56.5 by themselves. I'll probably also take -44.5 as well. But all right, this has been week 4 of the Tailgate Committee for Tom Scavetta and Noah Dibler. My name is Andy Hopper. We'll see you next week.